Hello friends, welcome to my channel. In this video we'll learn some of the important questions which are asked in C-SWIP, and these questions are also important for interviews. So before starting the video, let me introduce you to myself. My name is Sandeep Anand. I am a mechanical engineer and my experience is 14 plus years. I am having a hobby of sharing knowledge, and I share my knowledge through my website, that is www.weldingandandt.com, and the second mode is the YouTube channel. So I share my knowledge with from my YouTube channel also, and my YouTube channel ID is Welding and NDT. So friends, I would request you to financially support my initiative, and this you can do by joining my channel. So you can join my channel by paying a very small fee of 89 rupees, and you will get some additional benefits also if you will become a member of my channel. So friends, this is my LinkedIn ID and this is my Facebook ID. If you want to connect with me, you can connect with me here also, and if you want to download the PDF of this presentation, so you can do that by visiting my Telegram channel. Now we'll start with the question 1. The question 1 is, what unit is used for tensile strength values? So this is simply asking the value unit of tensile strength. It's a very simple question. I'll give you a 2-second time. Please think and answer. Okay, so let us understand this question. See, ultimate tensile strength or tensile strength is calculated by this formula: load by cross-sectional area. Suppose we have a component over here. So if we pull this component by applying some load, then the load divided by the cross-sectional area, this is the cross-section area, so load divided by the cross-sectional area will be tensile strength, and load is generally given by Newton, and cross-sectional area is generally denoted by mm square. So this will be Newton per mm square. Answer will be C, Newton per mm square. Now the second question: the quality of a radiography technique is assessed. How do you assess the quality of a radiography technique? Option A is by using a densitometer. Option B is from the kVA used and the film to focus distance. Option C from the IQI. IQI is image quality indicator, and option D is from the object to film distance. So friends, the densitometer is used to check the density of the radiographic film. So this is not used for, this is not used for checking the quality of the radiography technique. The second option is also not correct. And the fourth option, that is from object to film distance, this is also not used to check the quality of the radiography technique. So the quality of the radiography technique is checked by the IQI, that is image quality indicator. Here you will see the image quality indicators, photograph of image quality indicator. Basically we have two types of image quality indicator. One is wire type and the second one is step or hole type image quality indicator. See, this is wire type image quality indicator, and these image type IQ are placed on the other one side of the welding, and the radiographic film is placed on the other side of the welding. See, here you can see the step or hole type IQI, and here you can see the wire type IQI on one side and the radiographic film or cassette on the other side. So this is how we check the quality of the radiography technique, by using IQI. Now question 3: which of the following heating methods would not be allowed for PWST? PWST is post-weld heat treatment. So we have 4 methods, and he is asking that which one is not allowed for PWST. So option A is electrical resistance mats. These are used for PWST, hence this is not a correct option. Now option C is gas fired heating. So gas fired heating can also be used for PWST, hence this is also not correct. And option D is induction furnace. Induction furnaces are also used for post weld heat treatment. So the correct answer is option B, that is handheld gas torch. Friends, handheld gas torch can be used for post heating, but it cannot be used for post-weld heat treatment. See, there is difference between post-heating and post-weld heat treatment. Post-heating is done immediately after welding, whereas the post-weld heat treatment is done after several hours after welding. So this is post-weld heat treatment. Hence, post-weld heat treatment is not done by handheld gas torch, and the correct answer will be B. Now question number 4, which of the following statements about lamellar tearing is correct? Friends, I have explained the lamellar tearing in a very descriptive manner in CSWIP video lecture series chapter 17, that is weldability. So I have explained lamellar tearing in a very descriptive manner, so you can understand that from CSWIP lecture series chapter 17 video. Here we'll see the option. First option is they are caused by the removal of strong backs. B is they are located in the center of the weld metal. C is they are formed during steel manufacture, and D is they are formed during or immediately after welding. So option D is correct, that is lamellar tearing are formed during or immediately after the welding. So option D is the right answer. Now question number 5, before carrying out ultrasonic testing it is important. Option A, to remove all excess weld metal. No, that this is not important, as this is not the correct answer. So it is not required to remove the excess metal before ultrasonic testing. Now option B is to carry out penetrant testing first. This is also not required. This is optional, you can do or not do. To calibrate the densitometer, see, densitometer is used to check the density of the radiographic film, but here the question is ultrasonic testing, and this is also not correct. Now fourth option is to carry out some surface preparation. Yes, this is true. While doing ultrasonic testing you need a probe, and that probe is touched, hence the surface shall be free from paint and dust and rust, etc., and on that surface some couplant like oil and grease is applied, then the ultrasonic testing is done. Hence option D is the correct answer. Now question number 6, when a weld imperfection is located, suppose you have located one weld imperfection, what will you do? So A, it must always be repaired. B, it must be rejected. The welder's qualification document should be reviewed. And D, it should be assessed under the relevant code. So answer is it should be assessed under the relevant code. See friends, let us understand, imperfection is nothing but a flaw in welding, any discontinuity or flaw in welding. Now until and unless that flaw or discontinuity exceeds the code, we cannot say that flaw as a defect. Whenever if a flaw or discontinuity will exceed the code, then only we can say it as a defect. And if that is a defect, then we can either do repair or reject. So first we have to see the relevant code, then we can make our decision. So the option D is correct. Let me explain it a bit further. Suppose you detect a porosity of 1.5 mm dia. Suppose you detect a porosity of 0.5 mm dia, but your code says that any porosity with a dia of 3 mm is acceptable. Then in that case you will do nothing with this porosity, you will leave as it is. But if that dia of this porosity is 4.5 mm, then this this porosity will exceed the code limit, and in that case either you will have to repair or reject. Hence the first of all you have to see the relevant code, whether that discontinuity or imperfection is within that code or not. So our first and foremost work is to access that imperfection with the relevant code. So option D is correct. Now increasing the arc voltage of a submerged arc welded joint will result in, so in submerged arc welding CSWIP chapter I had explained all these things. So option is deeper penetration, B is more spatter, C is a narrow weld width, and D is a wider weld width. So if you will increase the arc voltage, the weld width will increase, hence option D is the correct answer. Now question number 8, which of the following is not an essential variable? So you have welding process. See, welding process is an essential variable. Whenever you will change the welding process, then you have to requalify your WPS. The option D, material type, this is also a essential variable. The material type is very much an essential variable. Whenever you will change the material type like P number, group number, then you need to requalify your WPS. And PWST is also an essential variable, and hence we are left with bevel angle. So answer will be bevel angle B. That is bevel angle. Bevel angle is not an essential variable. Now question number 9, which defect is not normally associated with the TIG welding process? So while explaining the TIG welding process in CSWIP video lecture series. I had explained this, hence no need to explain further. The answer is C. In TIG welding, splatter is less likely to occur. Question number 10. According to AWS 5.1, what type of covering would an E6013 electrode would have? In welding consumable chapter of CSWIP, I had explained this. Covering is nothing but the covering of flux. So there are three types of covering, or three groups of covering. One is rutile, second one is basic, and third one is cellulosic. The E6013 belongs to the rutile group, E7018 belongs to the basic group, and E6010 belongs to the cellulosic group. So it is asking E6013, hence it is rutile. The option will be C. Question number 10, option will be C. Now question number 11. Welding procedures must be qualified. Why do you qualify your welding procedure? The option A is the welder needs to practice before production begins. This is not the right answer. Option B, to prove that the NDT method can locate defects. This is also not the right answer. To prove that the fabricator can correct control welding. This is also not the right answer. To ensure that the joint properties satisfy the specification. Yes, this is the only or the main important aim of welding procedures. This is why we qualify our welding procedure, to see that the joint which we produce with the particular welding process is sufficient enough to give us the desired mechanical properties. So the option D is the right answer. Now question number 12. Cyclic stress loading can lead to, see, cyclic stress is nothing but repeated loading on a particular component. So if there will be some repeated loading, then the chances of fatigue failure will be there. So answer will be A, fatigue failure. Now question number 13. Hydrogen cracking is most likely in. So hydrogen cracking is most likely in, see, we can get hydrogen cracking in high strength low alloy steel, and we can get hydrogen cracking in low carbon steel also. But if you will compare, then high strength low alloy steel is more prone to hydrogen cracking. Hence the answer will be option B, high strength low alloy steel. This is also known as HSLA. Now question number 14. Fillet weld fracture tests are carried out to. Why do you carry out fillet weld fracture test? So option A is access the root for penetration and fusion. Option B is estimate the fracture toughness. Option C is estimate resistance to fatigue failure. And option D is all of the above. I'll give you a 2-second time to answer this question. Okay friends. So the reason we carry out fracture test is to see that the welder has the ability, or to see that there is complete penetration of welding and complete fusion is there or not. See, this is done on a welder qualification test coupon. When a welder gives his test in fillet weld, then we do the fracture test and we see that the welder has penetrated the weld metal and the welder has fused the base metal or not. So this is how we do that. On the welding, you cut a notch, approximately 2 mm notch, and then you break this piece by using hammer or press, and you'll see this region. You'll check this root region whether there is penetration or fusion or not. So question number 15. Which of the following MMA covered electrodes will give deeper penetration compared to others? So the answer will be C, cellulosic. In cellulosic you have one electrode, that is E6010, and E6010 gives deeper penetration. That is why it is used in pipeline, especially small dia pipeline, where there will be no access from inside. Hence with E6010 we can ensure that there is very deep penetration in the welding joint. Now question number 16. With which NDT method would you use a probe? So in which NDT method do you use a probe? Option A, X-ray radiography. Option B, magnetic particle inspection. Option C, ultrasonic testing. Option D, gamma radiography. So it is nothing but option C, that is ultrasonic testing. Now question number 17. TIG welding of aluminium would normally require which polarity? So normally in TIG welding we prefer direct current electrode negative, but if you are welding aluminium, then AC is preferred for TIG welding. So answer will be AC. Now question number 18, what would be the required leg length of a fillet weld with a design throat of 9 mm? So here throat is given and they are asking to calculate the leg length. Here you can see the leg length is denoted by Z. This is the leg length and it is denoted by Z, and this distance from root to the face center is known as throat and it is denoted by A. So if A is known, if A is given, then you can calculate leg length from this formula, and if leg length is given, then you can calculate throat from this formula. So in this question they have given the throat length, that is 9 mm. So you can calculate the Z by multiplying 9 into 1.9 into 1.41. if you will multiply, you will get the leg length. So after multiplication it comes to 12.6. so answer will be B, 12.6. Now question number 19, which test is carried out to determine a material susceptibility to lamellar tearing? Friends, again I am telling that while explaining chapter 17 I had explained the lamellar tearing in a very descriptive way, so you can understand from there. Here I will give the answer. The answer is STRA test. Now last question, question number 20, the included angle of a typical 15 mm carbon steel single V butt joint would be. So what would be the included angle? So I had explained in chapter 2 that the included angle will be nothing but 70 degrees. So B will be the right answer. Here you can see from the example, see this one side angle is known as the bevel angle of bevel, and both side accumulated is known as included angle. See, from these two angles we can sum up these two angles and we can call that this angle is the included angle, and it should be 70 degree. Hence the angle of bevel should be 35 degree both side, hence the included angle will be 70 degree. So answer option B is correct answer. So friends, with this I will finish this video and hope you like this video. Thank you very much.